Have you ever watched a snake flick its tongue in and out and felt a sudden jolt of uncertainty? Maybe you froze for a second and wondered whether that strange
Keep
little
your
movement
distance.
meant danger was coming.
Slow
Or maybe you have
steps.
seen it in your backyard
Clear
on a
it.
hiking trail or on television and
going.
quietly asked yourself what exactly the snake is doing.
Be still.
The answer is far more
Hiss.
remarkable than most
Hiss.
people realize.
Slow
That
down.
quick flick of a
Just
tongue
backing
is not a
away.
warning sign in the way many people imagine. It is not a threat display, and it is not the snake tasting the air in the simple way we are often told as children. In reality, a snake is gathering information from the world around it with a sensory system so unusual that it almost feels like something from another planet. To understand it, we have to forget what it is like to be human for a moment. Most of us experience the world through sight and sound first. We notice movement, we hear voices, we recognize faces, but snakes live in a very different sensory landscape. Many species have limited hearing compared to mammals. Their vision varies greatly. Some see quite well while others do not. Yet snakes have survived and thrived for millions of years because they possess another way of understanding their surroundings. That small forked tongue is one of the most important tools they have. Imagine walking into your kitchen and instantly knowing who was there 10 minutes ago, what they were eating, and which direction they walked when they left. Now imagine doing that without seeing any footprints at all. That is surprisingly close to what a snake can do. Each time a snake flicks its tongue, it collects tiny particles from the air and from surfaces around it. Those particles are then delivered to a specialized sensory organ located in the roof of the snake's mouth. Scientists call it the Jacobsons organ, or the vomeronasal organ. It analyzes chemical information and helps the snake build a picture of its environment. In a sense, the snake is smelling, but it is doing so in a way that is much more precise than simply breathing through nostrils. A garden snake moving through grass may flick its tongue dozens of times in a minute. To us, it looks repetitive. To the snake, every flick is a fresh stream of information. Somewhere nearby, a frog may have passed through moments earlier. A mouse may have crossed a trail during the night. Another snake may have left chemical traces behind. All of that information exists in invisible scent particles scattered throughout the environment. The snake is reading those clues the way we read words on a page. The forked shape of the tongue makes the process even more fascinating. Because the tongue has two tips, it can collect chemical information from two slightly different locations at the same time. The snake's brain compares those signals. If one side detects a stronger scent than the other, the snake can determine the direction of the source. Think about standing in your yard and smelling smoke. You know there is smoke somewhere, but you may not immediately know where it is coming from. A snake can often detect the direction of a scent trail with astonishing accuracy because its tongue is constantly comparing left and right. That forked tongue functions almost like a chemical compass. Researchers have observed snakes following scent trails left by prey animals with remarkable precision. Even when visual clues are removed, many snakes can continue tracking because they are essentially following a map made of microscopic chemical traces. This is why a snake crossing a trail often pauses and flicks its tongue repeatedly. It is not hesitating. It is collecting data. The next time you see one doing this in a garden or near a fence line, imagine a detective arriving at a scene and examining every clue. The snake is trying to understand who has been there and where they went. Of course, this raises an important question. If tongue flicking is mostly about gathering information, then what does it tell us about the snake's mood? The answer depends on context. A calm snake exploring its surroundings will often tongue flick steadily and rhythmically. The movements appear relaxed. The animal is investigating, it is learning, it is simply trying to understand its environment. But sometimes tongue flicking becomes faster and more intense. Imagine you are hiking and suddenly notice a snake a few feet away. The snake notices you too. In that moment, both of you are trying to figure out the same thing. Is this a threat? The snake may begin flicking its tongue rapidly because it is gathering as much information as possible. It wants to know what you are. It wants to know how close you are. It wants to know whether it should stay still, retreat, or prepare to defend itself. Rapid tongue flicking alone does not necessarily mean aggression. In many cases, it means uncertainty. That distinction matters because people often misinterpret snake behavior. A person sees a tongue flick and assumes the snake is preparing to attack. More often, the snake is trying to decide whether it needs to protect itself at all. Most snakes would rather avoid conflict. From the snake's perspective, humans are enormous, unpredictable creatures. We are not typical prey. We are not something a snake wants to fight. The vast majority of defensive bites occur because the snake feels trapped, startled, or threatened. This is where observation becomes important. If a snake is tongue flicking while remaining relaxed and slowly moving away, it is likely trying to leave. If it begins coiling, tightly flattening its body, raising its head, or displaying other defensive behaviors, then the situation is different. The tongue flicking is only one piece of a larger conversation. Nature rarely communicates with a single signal. Instead, animals combine many signals together. A bird may fluff its feathers and change its posture. A deer may raise its tail and stare. A snake combines body position movement and chemical sensing into a complete message. And sometimes that message is telling you to create more distance. When should you run? Interestingly, the answer is almost never because of the tongue itself. The tongue is not the warning. The warning comes from the overall behavior of the animal. If a snake is actively defending itself, showing clear signs of agitation, or if you have accidentally approached too closely, the safest response is usually calm retreat rather than panic. Sudden movements can increase tension for both you and the snake. A few careful steps backward often solve the problem immediately. The snake gets space. You get space. Everyone wins. One of the most beautiful things about learning, this is how quickly fear can transform into understanding. What once looked like a mysterious threat becomes something entirely different. That flickering tongue is not a symbol of danger. It is part of an extraordinary sensory system that has helped snakes survive across deserts, forests, wetlands, mountains, and grasslands for millions of years. If you enjoy exploring these hidden stories of the natural world with us, consider subscribing to Global Wild Origins. Every week we uncover small details in nature that can completely change the way we see familiar animals. It is always wonderful to have you along for the journey. The more scientists learn about snakes, the more impressive these animals become. They navigate landscapes filled with information that humans cannot directly perceive. Invisible chemical trails guide them through the world. Every tongue flick is another question asked and another answer received. A mouse passes through a field at dawn. Hours later, a snake follows the fading scent. A snake searching for a mate detects chemical traces left days before. A newborn snake emerges into the world already equipped with a sensory system capable of interpreting signals most of us will never notice. All of this is happening around us every day. And perhaps that is the most remarkable part. The natural world is not silent. It is overflowing with conversations. They simply happen in languages we rarely understand. The snake's tongue is one of those languages. A brief flick, a tiny movement. Something many people overlook without a second thought, yet hidden within that movement is a stream of information about survival, curiosity, caution, and awareness. So the next time you see a snake pause and flick its tongue toward the air, remember that it is not just looking at the world. It is reading it. It is gathering clues from invisible trails all around it and turning them into a picture of life unfolding beyond human senses. And that moment of uncertainty you once felt when you saw that tongue flicking in and out may become something else entirely. A moment of wonder, because sometimes the smallest movement in nature reveals the biggest secrets.